And one more try at this Access database thing. In Access 1, we learned the importance of the table, which is the holder of all the information. And then we learned that there are different ways you can look at the information. You could look at them on the screen, that would be a form. You could look at them on paper, that would be a report. But it's all really changing just that table of information or the multiple tables. If you have multiple tables, usually that's the whole deal. That's why you have a relational database, so they have a relationship between them. So this chapter is, what if you want to take a piece of information from here and there and there and there and put it all together into a form or a report? How do you do that? And the answer is that you use a query. I had said to you that a query is a question that you ask to the computer. And so you'll say, computer, gather so and so and so and so and so and give me the answer. Tell me which students at Mott Community College have 62 credits and need to be getting ready to graduate so I can call them on the phone and do a degree audit with them to make sure they have all the classes they need. That's a query. And we have a whole department that's all they do. It's called Institutional Research Department. That's what they do. We have all these different databases on the college campus. And then if information technology, we need some information, we'll ask them. And they do the query for us. Generally, they do it for us. But if we know about databases, then we can tell the computer what we need. Or at the auto parts supply store, computer, please tell me which of our parts, computer or our car part, we're running low on so we can order more of them so we'll have enough in stock. And the computer will go through and check all the parts and which ones are less than some certain number. Like some parts you need 10 of them on stock because you use them all the time. And some you only need 2 maybe or 1 because you don't use them so often. So that would be part of the table of the data in the table for each part, how many you need to keep in stock. And then the computer will chug, gather the information and make you a nice little report to print out, and then you can order them. Well, nowadays, the computer can order them too. Well, anyway, so in this chapter, we will learn how to do queries. There's this query design view grid that we use that in itself it looks like a table. It has columns and rows, but that's what we'll use to make our queries so that it's not bad to use. It's a strange thing, but you do a couple, you'll get the hang of it. And actually what's happening is when you're doing that, the computer's writing computer code for you. And if you look up in the views of that, the views, there's an SQL view, and you'll see what the computer code is for that. I used to teach a class where they had to do everything by typing like that. It was exactly this, exactly, but it was all by typing. You don't want to do that. We had fun. I mean, I had fun, but they didn't want to. So you can have a query that's a text query, which is words, letters, or a numeric query that's numbers. You can figure that out, right? You might have a parameter query, which means a computer will stop and ask you which thing do you want, which class do you want. It will stop and ask you that and then go get the data. You could have 2 parts. You could have an and or an or between them, and you could actually tell the computer how to join tables together. We don't do too much of that in this class, but just we want you to understand that can be done. But if you've watched this video, then you have the idea even if you don't know how. And you can take the data from here and ship it off to somewhere else like an Excel. They have ship it off to Excel. You could ship it all kinds of places. You could bring it from somewhere else in and attach it into the data you already have. There are all kinds of things you can do with it, but we really want you to understand those queries. That's the most important part for this chapter. Usually we look at the second page of the chapter to see what the thing is we're going to make. But for this chapter, all they showed you at the beginning was all the different tables. We saw those already. So I'm taking you over to page 2-5 in your book to show you this query design grid, since that's what we're going to use. it has two halves. There's a top half and a bottom half. And if you put your mouse on this little divider line where all the little dots are, you can actually, can I do this? Resize it. You see, to make it fit your screen if you're on a laptop versus a desktop. So you can resize it. And what you'll do in the top part is you'll add the various tables in there. So here we have the appointments table, but we're going to need the owner's table, the patient's table, the vet's table. We'll have to add those in here. The computer helps you some, but one of the skills is to add the tables, which up on the ribbon. Or you can always use a right click. Always try right click. Do you know that? Did you figure that out by now? If you don't know what to do, right click somewhere. And lots of times it will give you the set of choices that you want. That context menu or the right click menu, context menu they call it, that's so handy. So that's the top part where you list the tables and they just drop, that's all there is, you drop it in. Then you come down here to the design grid and notice that it looks like, I'm going to zoom in one more time here. It looks like a table too, doesn't it? Except there's no column headings. So what you do is, there are many ways this can be done, but by one of the methods, you get the field names from the tables at the top. This is the name of the table, appointments table, and here are the field names, appointment ID, patient ID, blah, blah, blah. And you get it from the top. You can double click it. It's easy. Down here into the field names, and it will add what table it's from. But you see these row headings? So you get the field names in the order you want them. So that's a skill to do. And then what if you get them in the wrong order or you need to delete one? And those are skills to do, but and whatever. Then they say, do you want to sort them? So there's a sort feature. Do you want to have it show in the final form or report, or do you want to include it but not show it? So I might want to see all the students from Grand Blank, but I don't want it to say Grand Blank as a field in the report. I'm going to say students from Grand Blank at the top. So I need to use it in my query, but I want to see it in the end. So then you uncheck the show. That's all that is. Then down here in criteria, this is where you're going to be doing your work right here is, do you want only the ones that are age 35 and up, so we're going for the older students, or only under the age of 18, so we'll hit the middle college and the early high school and all those. So the criteria will go in this cell for this field, whatever the field is. And if you understand that concept, then you match them up and put your stuff in. You have to learn how to write the different criteria, and then you'll learn about and or. So what if I have two criteria? I want students from Grand Blank, and let's pick on Kersley this time. I want students from Kersley, and they are less than 18 years old. You do have to learn how to do the less than and greater than. And you can always look it up online if you forgot which direction they go, okay? Don't get stressed. Look it up. Anyway, so from Kersley and less than 18 years old. So that's an and requirement. So you would have to have two rows, with two fields in two entries in the criteria in that box to make and. Whereas you might, and another time you might say, I want to know if they're from, let's going up around this direction. From Mount Morris, or they're from Clio. If they're from Mount Morris or they're from Clio, then I want their names here. So if this was the high school or the school district, you would say from Mount Morris. And on the or line right here, you would say or from Clio. So if it's from Mount Morris, it will give you a response. If it's from Clio, it will give you a response. And you'll say that sounds like and, but and means they both have to be true. Well, this is a computer concept, and will you get it the first time around? No, probably not, but that's okay. Don't worry. Just kind of fight through it. It's after you visit that topic several times, you'll understand it. But the first time around, I know it's confusing. I understand that. So just follow the instructions here. So if they're from Mount Morris or they're from Clio, and those go on the or line, so you have one on the first line and one on the second line. And that means if this one's true, I'll take it. And if this one's true, I'll take it. And that's the or. Whereas and, they have to go on the same line. So we'll give you several different kinds of queries to play with. And remember, your goal here is to figure out the idea of how databases work, generally what's included in the features, and you'll probably never use this one again, but you will use a database in your future job. And when you get there, then you'll know to look for some of these different features so you can incorporate them into your work environment. So, all right, try to have fun with it, okay? Don't try to make it hard. This you play games all the time and you have to figure out the rules. Do the same thing here. It's the same idea. It's that brainwashing, mental brainwashing. Okay, have fun. If you have a question, you can always contact the teacher, remember?